So exactly 110 days ago I sent my first ever cold DM and began doing outreach, and now I've signed my first official deal as a copywriter. So I kind of want to go over the things I've learned these past few months and the type of advice that I'd give someone who was in my position a few months ago just starting out. So let's firstly rewind the clock and go back to July when I joined this high ticket coaching program to go all in on this online business. I started improving up my skill, receiving feedback, building up my portfolio, and then I began doing outreach, which was probably a little bit too late because I was in this consuming phase for such a long time, just watching YouTube videos and preparing for all of this, but I wasn't really taking action. So that's definitely one of the things I should have done sooner. I was in the mindset that I didn't want to start straight away because I didn't want to have too much work on my plate and not be fully ready, but the truth is 99% of the time you learn by doing. It's like learning to drive a car. You're not going to learn by being in parking mode, you've got to actually just do it, and most of the time that's the best way you actually learn. So that's definitely one of the pieces of advice I would give, is just start taking action as soon as possible. But long story short, I started doing outreach on Instagram to the info niche, and for me I just felt like it was so saturated and most of these people already have hundreds of people in their DMs pitching them daily. But looking back, my offer just wasn't strong enough and I was just blending in with everyone else in their DMs. But essentially I decided to change niche, so after around 2 weeks I started focusing more on agencies. After doing some research on this, I just loved the idea of working with an agency. It felt a lot easier as you don't have to worry about a lot of the back end stuff. You just write the copy and then just send it over. I've heard a lot of people say it too, especially if you're a beginner. Agencies is a great way to start out, so I definitely wish I knew about this sooner. I kind of just turned my back on it at first, thinking I'd rather just reach out to and work directly with e-com brands and stuff like that. But I think agencies is a great path to go down. So that's what I focused on. I started searching up agencies to reach out to, from e-com agencies to just general marketing agencies, email agencies, all that type of stuff. So what I did was find agency websites, email people within the agency using Hunter.io, and just pitch them from there with a cold email. And again, looking back, I was just sending the exact same copy and paste template to all of these people, and no surprise, I didn't get any deals. The response rate was really low and it just wasn't really working, and I was kind of just wasting my time. I also started DMing people on Instagram to cover both bases, and I did get a lot better response rate on there, but again, my DMs were just copy and paste outreach messages and it just was not getting me anywhere. So that's another piece of advice I would say. Don't send generic copy and paste templates because you're just going to blend in with everyone else. You really do need to personalize them and kind of focus on the offer and what you're actually bringing to the table. But then after a few months I noticed a little bit of a hidden goldmine that I never really hear anyone talk about: LinkedIn. You can actually go on there and essentially find tons of job listings that you can apply for. I ended up doing this for a week or two, probably applied for around 50 in total, and I just stayed active doing this for a while, searching things up like remote copywriter or hiring copywriter, and you'd be surprised how many businesses are posting this. You can just apply there or shoot them a DM directly. And I definitely wish I started doing that sooner. But again, the only downside with this is you are kind of positioning yourself as an employee rather than a business partner, which isn't really the path you want to go down. But I was just basically in a position where I was really looking to get some work, and I was just happy to take on anything, even if it was low paying, just to gain some experience and just get my foot in the door. So I did get a lot of rejections, but I only needed one yes. And after a couple of days of doing a bunch of these and applying and doing DMs and just doing everything I could, I finally got some positive responses, jumped on some interviews and went from there. Long story short, after over 500 cold emails, thousands of cold DMs and a little over 3.5 months of consistent outreach, I finally got my first win. I've essentially joined a digital marketing agency, doing things like script writing, content writing, that type of stuff. So after all this, what did I learn? Well, I'll start by saying this. Unless you already have a strong network and know business owners that you could personally reach out to, which I didn't, it does take a lot of work and a lot of inputs. It's not as simple as sending 50 cold DMs a day and then you suddenly sign your first client after a week or two. It takes a lot of work, and those first few weeks will require a lot of patience, but you just need to keep going. A lot of people may give up at that point as they aren't seeing any results, and it may feel like a waste of time. But But that's exactly why you need to keep going. That's what separates the people who make it and those who don't. And it is pretty funny because it feels like these past few months I've just been doing everything but making money. Doing hundreds of cold emails, DMs, writing sample copy, hopping on calls, scraping leads, following up, literally everything. And you see these 18-year-olds out in Miami driving supercars thinking, how did they do this? But they all went through this same phase at the beginning where you're not seeing results, but you keep showing up every day and doing the things you need to do to get to where you want to be. And it can be frustrating too, because you see other people winning and you're putting in the work, but it feels like you're getting nowhere. For me especially, I was seeing people getting wins left, right and center, and I'm just like, what is your secret? But over time, it will work out if you just keep going and trying. Eventually, you'll start hopping on calls, and although each one may not be a success, they'll all shape the direction you're heading, and it's good to gain that experience as well. Like if you told me 6 months ago I had to hop on a sales call with somebody who I've never spoken to, I'd probably be a bag of nerves, but now after doing quite a few and just gaining some experience, it's not too bad. Although a lot of them aren't sales calls with what I was doing, they were more interviews, but it's still something that I was happy to take on. But that's one thing I definitely do think is important, is to, although at the start it is good to just take on as much work as you can, gain that experience and just start gaining some momentum, you do eventually want to position yourself more as a partner rather than just another general freelancer. So that's something I've been working on recently, just building out my offer, improving my positioning. And although LinkedIn has been good for applying for type of jobs and putting my foot in the door, you definitely want to make sure you have an outreach system and a crystal clear plan on what you're doing, who you're working with, what you're offering. You need to get really specific, do some market research. And another bonus, don't be afraid to invest in your business, invest in your skills, invest in coaching, because in the long term, it will probably be really beneficial. And you'll probably look back on it thinking it was a great decision. So that's definitely something I would have an open mind to. But overall, just have a lot of patience from the start. If something's not working, try something else. And you've got to stand out. You don't want to blend in with everyone else. So build your offer, build your positioning, and just get really clear on what it is that you're doing. But overall, I'd say one of the main pieces of advice is to create a clear vision. Who do you want to work with? What type of work do you see yourself doing? How many clients ideally do you want? How much are you making from this? What is your overall goal from all of this? I'd recommend just writing down everything so you have a crystal clear vision of what you're aiming for, because I think that's really important. As I mentioned, take action immediately. At the start, I didn't do outreach because I was quite hesitant, thinking I didn't want to end up booking a lot of calls and I didn't have time for it. But my advice would just be to start doing outreach ASAP, like literally today after watching this video, because chances are it will take a lot of time and you do need to do a lot of inputs, and it takes a lot of consistency as well. And if you don't take action today, before you know it, 3 months will have passed and you're in the exact same position and you haven't done anything. Track your leads, be consistent, follow up relentlessly, and the next part is just to focus on the inputs over the outputs. I remember Brez said this a while back and I related to it a lot. When I was doing hundreds of cold emails per week and what felt like thousands of cold DMs and tons of follow-ups, I was putting in the work but I wasn't seeing the results I wanted to, and I was getting declined a lot, and it felt like a bit of a waste of time because I wasn't really making any real visual progress. But if you focus on the inputs, so how many DMs are you sending, how many emails you're doing, how much follow-ups you're doing, how many hours you're putting in every day, all that type of stuff, then the outputs will come over time. It's very unlikely that if you show up every single day and do what you need to do, that you don't sign a client after a few months. So definitely focus on the inputs, because essentially that's all you can control. And another big thing is just to really knuckle down on your niche. You definitely don't want to be a jack of all trades and just offering services to everyone just to try and take on work. You definitely want to kind of specialize in one thing, so whether that's agencies, e-com, info, whatever it is, focus on that one niche and get really good, build a strong offer, and you can kind of position yourself as an expert in that niche. Because think about it, if someone reached out to you as just a general copywriter saying, hey, I want to work with you, and you checked out their profile and they just work with everyone and anyone, who are you more likely to take on? Someone like that, or someone who's specialized in your niche, someone who's, positioning themselves as an expert in that niche? You're more likely to want to work with them for obvious reasons. And when you get that first win, everything changes. You start gaining experience, growing your network, gaining case studies or testimonials, and it's just up from there. The main takeaways from this video is to have a strong outreach system. Don't be afraid to invest in yourself, whether that's coaching or something else, and to position yourself more as a business partner rather than a freelancer, which is what I have learned recently, so you definitely want to work on that side of things. Obviously, I'm still at the very early stages, but I've recently got my first win with an agency, so I'm looking forward to gaining some more experience with that. So you just got to keep learning, growing, and those are the most important things. Just keep going, putting in the inputs, and then the outputs will come. But it's definitely a great feeling to be making this video, and I want to keep posting and documenting my journey along the way to share value and things I learn, because this is definitely just the start, and of course I want to keep going and growing. So make sure to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.